You know what is crazy? Your grandparents bought a house, raised 3 kids, and took summer vacations every year while your grandmother stayed home baking cookies. Meanwhile, you and your partner both work full-time jobs, skip vacations, and still panic when the car needs new tires. How does that even make sense? 2 incomes should mean twice the money, twice the security, twice the freedom, right? But here you are, lying awake at 3 in the morning wondering if you can afford daycare next month. Something is seriously broken here, and it is not you. I am Henry, and I've spent years obsessing over why hardworking people feel financially strangled despite doing everything right. I've dug through decades of economic data, interviewed hundreds of families, and discovered patterns that most financial advisors want to tell you about. If you are tired of feeling broke despite working your tail off, you are in the right place. I share opening insights like this every week. So don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. Trust me, what I am about to show you will change how you see your entire financial life. Let me introduce you to something called the 2-income trap. And I promise this will make your blood boil and then give you clarity you've never had before. Here is the trap. When families went from 1 income to 2 incomes over the past 50 years, you'd expect them to be swimming in extra cash. But the exact opposite happened. The average 2-income family today has less discretionary income and faces higher bankruptcy rates than the single-income families of the 1970s. How is that possible? Because when most families added that second income, the economy didn't just sit there waiting. Housing costs exploded. Childcare became a massive expense that didn't exist before. Healthcare costs skyrocketed. Car payments doubled because now you need 2 vehicles. The entire economic system recalibrated itself around the assumption that every household would have 2 earners, and then it priced everything accordingly. That second income didn't give you more freedom. It became the mandatory entry fee just to maintain a middle-class life. Let me paint you a real picture. Take Sarah and Mike, a couple in their mid-30s with 2 kids. Sarah brings home $48,000 a year after taxes working as a marketing coordinator. Sounds good, right? But here's what actually happens to that money. Daycare for 2 kids costs them $22,000 a year. Their second car payment, insurance, gas, and maintenance, because Sarah needs reliable transportation to work, runs another $8,000 annually. Work clothes, dry cleaning, and grabbing lunch. Because she doesn't have time to pack, it adds $3,000. They now down to $15,000 of that $48,000 salary. Then factor in the higher tax bracket they pushed into. With combined income costing them an extra $4,000, they left with $11,000 of actual benefit from a full-time job. That is less than $1 per hour of actual value after all the costs required to earn that income. Sarah works 40 hours a week to net her family about $5 an hour. She could almost make more staying home and cutting coupons. Now compare that to her parents' generation in 1975. Sarah's mom stayed home while her dad earned the equivalent of $55,000 in today's dollars. Their mortgage payment was 22% of his income. Today, Sarah and Mike's mortgage eats 41% of their combined income for a smaller house in a worse school district. Her parents had 1 car payment that cost 12% of income. Sarah and Mike have 2 cars consuming 19% of their combined income. Healthcare costs Sarah's parents about 3% of income with better coverage. Sarah and Mike pay 11% for a high deductible plan that barely covers anything until they hit $6,000 out of pocket. The math is devastating. Sarah's parents had about 35% of income left over after basic fixed expenses. Sarah and Mike have about 8% left after fixed expenses, and that is before food, utilities, or anything else. They earn way more in raw dollars, but live way worse. Here is another example that'll make this crystal clear. Meet James, a single guy making $60,000 a year in Austin. His buddy Marcus makes the same salary but lives in a small town 2 hours away. James pays $1,800 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment because that is what the 2-income households in Austin have driven the market to. Marcus pays $700 for a nicer 2-bedroom house. James spends $600 monthly on his car payment and insurance for something reliable enough to commute in city traffic. Marcus paid cash for a used truck and pays $80 a month for insurance. James spends $400 monthly eating out because he is exhausted from his commute and doesn't have time to cook. Marcus spends $150 on groceries and cooks most meals, same income, but James has about $900 left at month's end while Marcus has over $2,000. The difference. James lives in an economy that is priced for 2-income households, and Marcus doesn't. James isn't bad with money. He is trapped in a system that extracted his income before he even saw it. Now I know what you are thinking. First objection, Henry. We need both incomes just to survive. We can. Just quit a job. I get it, and I am not suggesting anyone quit their job tomorrow, but understanding the trap is the first step to escaping it. Many families have never actually calculated the real net benefit of that second income after all associated costs. When you do the math honestly, including childcare, transportation, taxes, convenience costs, and career expenses, some families discover that second income nets them $3,000 to $7,000 a year. That is real money, sure, but it is also achievable through strategic cost cutting or a small side income that doesn't require full-time childcare. The point is that everyone should become a single-income household. The point is that you should know your real numbers so you can make informed choices instead of assuming you have no options. Second objection. But we need 2 incomes to afford our mortgage. Here is the brutal truth that nobody wants to hear. The reason you need 2 incomes for your mortgage is because housing prices rose specifically because lenders knew they could qualify families based on 2 incomes. In the 1970s, lenders qualified you based on 1 income, and housing prices reflected that reality. When lending standards changed to include both incomes in the 1980s and 1990s, housing prices rose to absorb that extra borrowing power. You are not buying more house than your parents. You are paying more for the same house because sellers and banks know you have 2 incomes to extract. This is the core of the trap. Your second income didn't give you better housing. It just made housing more expensive if you are already locked into this situation. I am not saying sell your house tomorrow, but understanding this dynamic changes everything about how you approach your next housing decision, your location choices, and your career planning. So, what do you actually do about this? Let me give you concrete steps that work in the real world. First, calculate your real second income. Sit down this weekend and actually add up every single cost associated with that job. Childcare, transportation, work clothes, convenience food, tax bracket increase, everything. Subtract that total from the after-tax income. Look at that final number with clear eyes. If it is less than $10,000 a year, you have options you probably haven't considered. You might find that one partner could switch to part-time work from home or take a lower stress job closer to home, and the family would only lose a few thousand in actual net income while gaining massive improvements in quality of life, time with kids, and mental health. Second, make housing decisions based on 1 income only, even if you have 2. This is the most powerful move you can make to escape the trap when you are buying or renting. Pretend that second income doesn't exist. Qualify yourself based on 1 salary. Yes, this means a smaller house or a less trendy neighborhood, but it also means you are not trapped. If someone loses a job, gets sick, or wants to make a career change, you have flexibility instead of panic. This single decision exempts you from the trap that is crushing everyone around you. Your neighbors with the bigger house and 2 incomes are 1 layoff away from catastrophe. You are building actual resilience. Third, eliminate 1 car if remotely possible. I know this sounds impossible, but hear me out. Could one partner work from home a few days a week? Could you move closer to one workplace? Could you use rideshare for occasional needs instead of maintaining a second vehicle year-round? The average car costs $8,000 to $12,000 per year when you factor in payments, insurance, gas, maintenance, and depreciation. That is real money that could go toward building an emergency fund that actually protects you. Get creative here. Some families have one partner drop the other off, then have the car for the day. Some use a bike or scooter for short commutes. Some negotiate remote work by showing employers the exact cost savings. There's always a way if you are willing to challenge the assumption that 2 cars are mandatory. Fourth, ruthlessly audit your childcare situation. I'm not saying childcare isn't valuable or that you should compromise your kids' well-being, but many families pay premium daycare prices without exploring every option. Could you find a quality home daycare for half the cost of a center? Could you swap childcare with Third family a few days a week? Could one parent shift to evening or weekend work so you don't need full-time care? Could a relative help out for modest compensation instead of pie-ng market rates to strangers? Some families pay $25,000 a year for childcare that keeps both parents working jobs that net them $30,000 combined after all expenses. That is insane. $5,000 of actual benefit for 2 full-time jobs and barely seeing your kids. Run the numbers and be willing to make unconventional choices. Fifth, move to where the trap is weakest. This is the nuclear option, but it is worth considering seriously. The 2-income trap is strongest in expensive coastal cities and weakest in smaller towns and less trendy areas. If your careers allow any location flexibility, moving from a high-cost area to a medium-cost area can be like giving yourself a $30,000 raise without changing jobs. Your income might drop 15%, but your costs drop 40%. You escape the bidding war with 2-income households over housing, childcare, and everything else. I've watched families make this move and describe it as finally being able to breathe financially for the first time in years. It is not for everyone, but it is worth 30 minutes of serious research to see what is possible. Here is what I need you to understand. You are not failing at money. You are not bad at budgeting. You are not spending too much on lattes. You are trapped in an economic system that recalibrated itself to extract every dollar from 2-income households. Your parents weren't smarter or more disciplined. They lived in an economy priced for 1 income, so 1 income was enough. You live in an economy priced for 2 incomes, so 2 incomes feel like barely enough. The game changed and nobody told you. But here is the good news. Once you see the trap, you can start making different choices. You can stop playing the game by their rules. You can base your housing on 1 income. You can question whether every expense associated with 2 jobs is truly necessary. You can move to where your money goes further. You can build a life with margin instead of a life maxed out in every direction. This isn't about going backward or women leaving the workforce. This is about making conscious choices with clear eyes instead of sleepwalking into financial stress because everyone else is doing it. Some families will choose 2 careers because they love their work and it is worth it. Others will discover they're working themselves to death for a net benefit they could replace with smarter decisions. Both are fine. What is not fine is never running the numbers and assuming you have no choice. If this resonated with you, smash that like button and subscribe, because I'm going to keep showing you the financial traps that keep you stuck and exactly how to escape them. Share this with anyone who is working harder than ever but feeling broker than ever. They need to see this. Your financial freedom isn't about earning more. It is about escaping the systems designed to take everything you earn. And that journey starts right now with one simple choice: to see the trap clearly and refuse to play along.